back to another, potentially the final, session of Katawa Shoujo. I say potentially the final because we just hit Act 4, I think, last time. So we filled out the whole little flower here. I don't think it's a flower, but I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah, we're there. I think this is the end. We'll talk about it if it happens. But for now, walking up the now slightly more familiar corridor of the girls' dormitories, I could hear the faint sound of laughter coming from up ahead. It doesn't take long to identify the source of Lily's room. Also, sorry, there's two things that's going to happen right now. I should have brought this up. One is that you might hear my fan, because right now in California it is probably around 100 degrees. And two is that I will be sweating because it's probably like 100 degrees. So please bear with me. It's gross, and I don't want to be wearing a shirt, but I didn't want to be on camera in my tank top, so whatever. It doesn't take long to identify the source of Lily's room, though the deep timbre of the female voice unmistakably belongs to not her, but her sister. I rap my knuckles on the door with the usual 3 light taps, my hand barely retreating as the door swings open. Hey, Sal. Hey, hello, Lily. Hanako. Hanako looks up tentatively, her hands buried in her oversized pink nightgown. From her side, Lily turns sideways towards the direction of my voice and smiles. It would be a flagrant lie to say I dislike the sight of her in those pajamas. Kachikira giving me a sidelong look with a knowing grin, to which I reply with a sharp glare. She takes the hint, shrugs, and walks back down the low table in the center of the room as I go to join her. Lily gives me a nod, greeting, and starts pouring me a cup of tea. I have tea again today, just because, really. Still very hot. It's nice to see you again, Hanako. You've been getting around recently. Lily wears a look of concentration as the light brown liquid, carefully measured by her finger, as always, flows from the teapot into the cup. It seems Hanako has taken up helping one of the people in your class with the newspaper club. Naomi, I think. Hanako gives an affirmative nod. That's so cute. She's doing something. Even after spending 2 months in class, I still have trouble remembering the names of those students I rarely talk with. Takes me a few mental contortions to connect the name with the face. I eventually remember the girl that sits beside Hanako in the back of the class. Naomi Inoue. Fairly average-looking girl, except for her bleached blonde hair. Given her upbeat and straightforward personality, Naomi may have seen an opening to poach Hanako for her club when she inquired about joining one. Either way, it's nice to see Hanako broadening her horizons. When I first met her, the idea of joining a club with anyone but Lily would have seemed utterly laughable. That'd explain how busy you've been. Enjoying it? It's really interesting. As always, Hanako is far from being talkative. Some things never change, and it seems that Hanako's personality is one of them. She'll likely always be one to shy away from being overly social. Damn, she's like doing a club right now. Is that chill? Warned by the sound of crockery against the table as Lily gently places my drink in front of me, I thank her and take a long sip. Hanako and Lily are attending to their own, and Akira is quaffing a mug of strong-smelling black coffee. You're a lucky bastard, Asao. Huh? Can't help but grimacing at her teasing smile, still visible around the edges of the mug pressed to her lips. Seeing my sister in her pajamas, that's a lot of men out there who'd like to be where you are. I've seen a lot more than that. Not that I'd admit it. Akira. Hey, I'm just teasing. She leans over to me as much as she can, whispering with a sly grin written on her face. And Hanako too, you perv. Hey, it was her idea. We both look over to her, her face turned to the ground, her hands fidgeting in her lap of the nightgown. If it's a sound, I don't mind. This could be bad. I know Hanako altogether too innocent to bother reading too much into such a thing, but the expression Akira's directing at me is positively stormy. Akira, please. Seems Lily can sense Akira's sudden change in aura just as well as I, even without seeing it for herself. Akira slowly looks away from me like an attack dog leashed by its owner in the nick of time. I breathe a sigh of relief. Can't think of a more appropriate time to try and change topics than around now. If you don't mind me asking, Akira, what do you do for a living? I've never seen you out of that suit. She's like a lawyer or something, right? I don't know why I think that. Thinking about what to do with yourself thinking about what to do with yourself after school's over, huh? I'm a lawyer. I don't know. I just assumed that. Okay. For the most part, I work in the legal department of the Japanese branch of our family's company. Or did she say that in Hanako's route at any point? I don't know. The most boring possible answer, I suppose. Law is a pretty dry topic to most people. Kinda. Oh, you're not supposed to agree. Lily gives an amused giggle while holding her teacup and saucer, Hanako quickly joining her. This friendly atmosphere between everyone is something I'd missed while Lily and Akira were on their trip. While the dealings I had with Hanako didn't help, I think just not having Lily around had changed the mood. It's nice to be back. I missed you, Hisao. And you too, Hanako. Same goes for both of us. I'm guessing your classmates were happy to see you back. In a manner of speaking, yes. Yeah, they can't see. Akira's amused snort shows she's well aware of Lily's attitude towards such figures of speech. I imagine she'd have to be, given how long they've been together. Did you have fun in Scotland? For a moment, I wonder why she's asking, and it having been quite a while since they came back, but then I remember everything that happened. We simply had not had the time to look back. What with the exams and our Hokkaido trip. Lily's face goes distant for a moment, and the fact that Akira's first reaction is to look over to her sister doesn't escape me. Nonetheless, she quickly collects herself. It was nice. We hadn't met our family in such a long time, so it was a wonderful reunion. Yeah, I guess that's right. Their house being beachside was the best part, though. From her dismissive tone, I get the feeling that Akira doesn't like their family as much as Lily does. You only like that because you finally had time to play around. Just because I'm the better swimmer. I don't take after the athletic side of the family, that's all. Well, you can take the heart in fact that you got the height genes, at least. And the bust genes. That's not really the kind of thing to say around others. Lily pretends to scold Akira. She does so with an unmistakable, slightly cheeky grin on her face. I doubt Akira really minds that, judging from her nonchalant expression. While I don't either, Hanako is looking down and blushing furiously beside me. The sisters' antics aside, their parents really do lead a bourgeois lifestyle. That's how you spell bourgeoisie, right? Bourgeoisie, it's bourgeois and then bourgeoisie. Bourgeois is like the adjective. Seems utterly divorced from the fact that Lily and Akira have lived until now. I suppose practicality. Yeah. Or is it practically? Shit. Practically. Must have made the decision for them. To have come from such a wealthy and well-connected lineage only adds to the almost noble air Lily seems to have, though. It's a small wonder none of it seems to have rubbed off on Akira. They really are as little alike as siblings could be. Their only similarity seems to be shared confidence, which can be both endearing and a headache at times. Most of the night continues much the same, with Hanako eventually leaving the Sato sisters and me to ourselves as she heads back to her dorm for a rest. For a while, only the barely audible sound from Lily's teacup and saucer can occasionally be heard as she slowly drinks. Silence is strained as Lily and I wait for the elephant in the room to be addressed. So? Lily dutifully puts her cup down, giving her sister an undivided attention. With Lily and me on one side and of the low table and Akira at the other, this almost feels like a judge passing down a verdict. Hear that you two are going out now? I glance sideways at Lily to confirm her as the source of Akira's knowledge. She gives a gentle nod to Akira, in which I mirror an affirmation. Deciding that this is the proper time and place to do so, and Akira being the closest figure to a parent Lily's had for much of her life, I bow deeply with my hands on the floor before me and my head very nearly the same. Take good care of your sister, Akira. I promise you. See, he's a lovely young gentleman. She must have heard my voice coming from a lower position than usual. I slowly bring myself back up, my eyes tentatively looking to Akira from under my brow. To tell the truth, I very much doubt my suited judge will raise any objections. She's very definitely the type to make her disapproval with others well known, something that lends her a measure of respect in my eyes. The old-fashioned kind, huh? Well, he's the kind of person I'd guess you'd go for. I don't have a problem with it, and I wish you two the best. Even if I didn't like it, I couldn't really do anything anyway. I offer a nod of appreciation to her as Lily gives a small sigh of relief, likely more out of duty than actual belief Akira might have had any problems with us being together. I do wonder, though, how's the rest of the family taking it, particularly the part reciting at Yamaku? Have you told her? Smiles turn to grimaces as Akira grins downright evilly. Those closest know how to twist the knife the best, after all. Putting up with it may be the best term for the situation. Don't you agree, Hisao? Yeah, that sounds about right. At least she's being reasonable about it. Good to hear. That girl can be a handful at the best of times. Sent a few messages back and forth during and just after the trip, and she was already busting my chops for seeing my boyfriend when we came back. After leaving Hideki for so long, she really does care for the little guy. I cast my mind back to Shizune's odd reaction after telling her about our relationship, but decide not to bring it up. It's no doubt simply born of their mutual antipathy, and Akira's comments only back that up. Well then, that's settled. Gotta go to work early tomorrow, so I'd better be off. She rises from the table with a grunt, her hand on her knee, pushed herself up. I just noticed that Akira's eyes lingering on Lily for a couple of seconds before turning away as she begins to take her leave. After she walks out of the door, she stops and looks up thoughtfully before turning to us one last time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to tell you. Use protection. Every time. We've done it twice and we have not either time. I gag violently on the tea in my mouth. Contrary to my own, Lily's composure holds perfectly as she seems entirely unfazed, and I'm kind of impressed. We are. Don't worry. No, we're not. We haven't. Atta girl. See ya. You're lying to her. And with that, she turns and strides away, a hand held high as she disappears into the darkened hallway, closing the door behind her. The most reaction I can muster is flopping forwards onto the table, completely drained of energy and truly exhausted by her. Lily's ability to hold her own against that suited devil is something I admire. She really is incredibly blunt. I don't think I'll ever be able to keep up with your sister's energy. As I feel Lily's soft hand come to my own, I roll my head to the side to see her gently smiling. For a long time, we simply sit beside each other silently. Given her unquestionably unusual height, she is pretty much exactly as tall as I am. Probably a couple of centimeters higher, if anything. Like this, she appears even taller. The feeling of her pale, soft hand against mine is a pleasant one, as is the sight of the thin, silken pajamas she wears, showing her curves and collarbone. You do get on well, though, even if you do say that. I guess. You know, you two are a lot more alike than I first thought when I met you. Then it's a good thing I quickly stopped you from going after her, isn't it? Though she jokes about it, my assessment of my inability to keep up with Akira, either physically or mentally, was quite in earnest. Lily's slow pace and ladylike, almost motherly nature is perhaps the single thing that helped me most in my first weeks at Yamaku. Come to think of it, wait, since when were we using protection? As I give a curious look to my side, Lily's cheeks puff out as she huffs at me. Unlike you, I remembered. The packet is in the cupboard next to the sink. So I'm not the only one of us that takes a pill. In hindsight, I feel rather thoughtless for not remembering at all and leaving it to Lily, which is weird because you did remember once with Hanako and I believe once with Emmy. So that's weird. Looking over to the cupboard she mentions, I notice again the knee-high piles of books around us. Okay, I thought it was talking about the pills. It's like, damn, of books around us that were here the other times I'd visited. For the most part, they're lined up against the wall to give a little more room around the table. Why don't you get a bookshelf for your books? It's odd seeing books just piled up around, especially given that your room looks so neat and orderly otherwise. They're easier to find this way. I know exactly which pile of books each is in. Yeah, but if you had a bookshelf, you could know exactly which shelf the books are on. Yeah, different shelf? That may be, but she's not immune to bouts of laziness after all. You have so many of them, it's kind of a shame that we can't share our book sets despite both of us reading so much. She gives a short giggle. Come to think of it, why do you order your books through Yuko? I imagine there'd be plenty of sites that you can order books in Braille from, especially in English Braille. There are a lot of text-to-speech programs, too. She turns her head slightly away from me, which strikes me as somewhat surprising. I'm just not all that good with computers. I'm alright with typewriters and braillers, but that's about it. Her tone almost makes me chuckle. She's such a prideful person, so admitting something must be pretty difficult. So, Lily's the low-tech kind of person. Given her old-fashioned personality, it's not really a stunning surprise. I wouldn't worry about it. A lot of people aren't really good with them, so it's not that unusual. Now that she's even more depressed, it feels like I'm twisting the knife rather than healing her wounds. With a bit of squirming, I shuffle my way closer to her, tentatively putting one hand around her waist to hug her. I'm still not really used to this kind of physical affection, but Lily seems to like it. Aw. Lily smiles as she turns to face me, a kiss being the reward for giving in to her. She draws me in, brushing my upper lip with hers before pressing against both. This way, every one of my senses is filled with her. The barely perceptible scent of her hair, her taste and her tongue fleeting touches mine, the tenderness of her lips, the image of her filling my mind, the total silence apart from her faint breath. We may have kissed before, but even if this is more of a kiss of simple affection than anything, it's still a new and pleasant sensation. Judging from her vivid blush as she pulls back, it's obvious she feels the same as I do. Even when we're entirely alone, it still feels embarrassing to open up to each other this much. If we take everything day by day, I think that would be for the best. Small steps, right? Yeah, just small steps. We have plenty of time to be together. Even after our school year is over, as long as we move together, I think everything will work out okay. Neither of us is going anywhere soon, after all. For now, I'm just thankful for this small moment in time we can spend together. That was really cute. I like that.